Hi everyone, and welcome back to my channel and to another reading vlog. This is going to be another reading vlog for Buzzwordathon. If you didn't watch my vlog from January, I will leave a link to it up in the eye in the corner, and I will also link Kayla's announcement video for Buzzwordathon in the description box because she will explain everything a lot better than I will. But just to kind of reiterate for you, Buzzwordathon is a reading challenge that goes through the whole year. Each month there is a different buzzword or theme of buzzwords, and you have to read books with those buzzwords in the title. So it was a personal little reading goal of mine to participate in Buzzwordathon every single month for at least a week where I read the books with the buzzwords in the title. So it is now February. Just like with January, time kind of went faster than I expected, and it is almost the last week of February, so I thought I should probably get started with this challenge. So the theme of buzzwords for February is verbs. I scoured my bookshelves, my TBR cart, all of that jazz, and I have to be honest, I thought I was going to come across a lot more verbs than I did. I thought that this was going to be one of the easier challenges of the year, but shockingly, not a lot of verbs. I only found 3 books, and 2 of them I wasn't really interested in reading. One was All the Light We Cannot See, which is a historical fiction. I'm just not really in the mood for historical fiction at the moment, so that's going to be a pass for me. And then the other one was Shatter Me by Tahar Mafi, which would be convenient to read because I'm pretty sure all of the books, or almost all of the books in that series, have verbs in the title, so it would be convenient to just read through all of them. But I'm just not really sure that I want to commit to that right now because I am currently reading through Throne of Glass, which is a pretty long series, and I just don't want to start too many series right now, if that makes sense. So the third book, conveniently though, was a standalone, and that is the winner for this reading challenge. And that book is Go the Distance by Jen Kalanita. This is one of the Twisted Tales books, which you guys know I'm slowly but surely reading through all of them, and a lot of the ones that I have read, I've got reviews up on my channel. There's some of my most watched videos are my reviews of these books, but I haven't picked one up in a while because, if I'm being completely honest, the last 2 Twisted Tales books I tried to read, I ended up DNFing, which was very disappointing. I kind of DNF'd them with the idea that I might come back to them later because I was just going through a weird time in my reading for the last year and a half, but I feel like I'm in the mood to pick another one up, and I have to say, of all the Twisted Tales books that have been released, this was the one that I was most excited for because I love Hercules so much. And if you don't know what the Twisted Tales series, it's basically a series of companion novels. You don't have to read them in any particular order. They can all be read as standalones. They each follow a different Disney movie, but with some kind of twist on the story. So for this one, the tagline is, "What if Meg had to become a Greek god?" So the fact that it focuses on Meg is very exciting for me because she is my favorite unofficial Disney princess. Personally, I think she was snubbed of the official title. So was Sally, but that's a story for another day. But I'm very excited to pick this up, and I hope that this one will go better than the last 2 that I read. So this works for a verb in the title. I'm not gonna lie, it was one of those things where I was going through my shelf looking for the ing verbs, and all of the ones that I found did not have ing. So I walked past this one a couple of times before I realized that go counts as a verb. So yes, I am going to pick this book up, and then I do want to read more than one book for this week, so I think we might take a trip to the library at some point this week and see if I can just find a book with a verb in the title that catches my eye that I would like to pick up for this challenge as well. But for now, we're going to start with this one. So this is my plan for today. I think for lunch, me and my mom are actually going to go to a little cafe that we've never been to before, so maybe I will take you along with me and see if I can film a couple of clips of that. And then I don't really know what I have planned to do this afternoon. Probably some more crocheting as I usually do, but I do want to read quite a bit of this today. It's not very long, so it shouldn't take me too long to read. So it is now about 2 o'clock in the afternoon. I've got a little reading update for you. Lunch did not go exactly to plan because I totally forgot that it was a Saturday. So we went to the cafe and it was absolutely crowded, which I was not expecting because I forgot that it was a Saturday. So I was like, you know what? Let's save this for like a Monday activity when it's a little bit less busy. So instead we went to Panera, which is my favorite, so I'm not mad about it. And then afterwards we did end up at Michael's as per usual, but I only bought 2 skeins of yarn and I had a coupon and I had a gift card left over from Christmas, so I don't feel as bad about it because I didn't actually spend any money. But as far as my reading goes, I am 112 pages into Go the Distance. I took the dust jacket off because it has a beautiful cover and I would hate to rip it accidentally while I'm reading it. So I'm a little bit more than like a third into it, but less than halfway, and I'm pleased to say that I am really enjoying this. I was a little bit worried after having DNF'd the last 2, but I don't know if I'm just in a different reading mood now or if it's just because I love the Hercules character so much, but I'm really enjoying this. I don't know how much I want to talk about my thoughts in this vlog because, like I said, I usually do dedicated review videos for these books, and so I don't want to repeat myself too much on my channel, so I think I'll keep my thoughts to a minimum. But I also think one of the reasons that I am really enjoying this is because the author is capturing the essence of these characters really well with the dialogue. Like in Hercules, like these characters have very specific tones. Like Meg has a very specific tone. Like Phil, who is narrated by Danny DeVito, has a specific tone. So does Hades. They're all very sarcastic, like in their own ways. And I think this author is doing really well at capturing that sarcasm in their dialogue in this book. So I'm having a really easy time like picturing them saying these lines in my head. Like even though it's new dialogue that I've never heard them say before, like I'm having no problem like imagining Danny DeVito's voice in my head when I'm reading Phil's lines. So I think that is really good. I do have a little bit of a concern with the actual plot of the story. So, like I said, I don't want to talk about it too much because I don't want to repeat myself, but I guess I will just say this and then we'll call it a day on the rest of my thoughts. But I am a little bit concerned with Meg's plot in this book because one of the things that I love about Meg as a character, one of the things that I feel like makes her a little bit more relatable than other like Disney heroines is that she's one of the only like Disney girls besides Anna, I guess, who didn't find her happily ever after on the first try. Just in case there's any non-Disney people watching this, to give you a little bit of context, like Meg's backstory was that she had a boyfriend that got very sick and he was gonna die, so she basically made a deal with Hades that he could take her soul in order for her boyfriend to live, and then the boyfriend just like moved on to another girl super quickly, and so Meg was like very hurt by that. So in this book it does rely a lot on Meg's backstory, both with like her parents, like how she lost her parents, and then also with this other guy. So I have a slight concern that they are going to give this guy like a redemption arc in this book. And I don't want that to happen. I know that that would be like the Disney thing to happen, is that he turns out to have some kind of reasoning behind what he did and he gets a redemption story. But I don't want that, okay? I think it's more realistic that, you know, we can read or watch a girl that doesn't get her happily ever on the first try, because some people are not nice, but there are good guys out there. So I think that that's a better storyline than what I think is going to happen in this book. I don't know for sure that that's what's going to happen, but I'm concerned that it is. So yes, those are my thoughts as of right now. Phoebe just jumped up on the couch. I don't know if you can see her, but my plans for this afternoon will continue to read this book, but I also think I want to do some crocheting. I do have to change first though, because while I love these sleeves, they're very like Morticia sleeves, I don't think they'd be very realistic for crocheting. I think they'd get in the way. So I'm going to change, and then I'm going to do some crocheting, and then I will still continue to read this. I don't think I'll finish it today, because anytime I say that, it for sure won't happen then, but we'll see how far I get. And then tomorrow I am going out with a friend, but maybe either tomorrow night or the day after I will hopefully get to the library and see if we can find another book to read for this reading challenge. Hi guys, so it is now Monday. I did not vlog at all yesterday because I spent the majority of the afternoon and evening hanging out with one of my friends, and we were having such a fun time that it totally escaped my brain to to vlog anything, so I'm sorry about that. But I didn't do a whole lot of reading yesterday because, like I said, we were out a lot of the day, and this morning I did do a little bit of reading. It is now like 3:30 in the afternoon, and I'm trying to dedicate today to reading and crocheting. So I have a little bit of a reading update for you, but not much. We did go grocery shopping a little bit ago, and I got myself a little iced coffee that is mostly gone, but this is how I get by these days. But this morning I did read up to page 200 in Go the Distance, and like I said, I'm going to save most of my thoughts for my review, but I am still enjoying it. I'm not going to say whether what I thought was going to happen happened or not, because I feel like that's maybe a little bit of a spoiler, but I am still enjoying it, but I'm going to save my thoughts for my review. So I'm more than halfway through this, and I do still plan on going to the library at some point. Maybe I'll go tonight, I'm not really sure, but we will get there eventually to find out what my next read is going to be. But for now, I'm really trying to dedicate today to finishing that book, maybe not the entirety of it, but like most of it, and also crocheting, because I have had 2 people request that I make a cat plushie, which I've never made a cat plushie before. So I'm dedicating today to like seeing what kinds of patterns that I can find for cats and what I like, because not all animals translate super well in crochet, and I feel like cats are one of those harder ones where it's just harder to find a pattern where like I really like it. I don't know if that makes sense. So I have already crocheted quite a bit today, and this is my progress so far. Nothing looks derpier than a plush mid making. Like it's going to be a cat at some point, but right now it just looks like an alien. So I'm gonna finish this little guy up, and then I'm going to get started on a different cat pattern just to compare, see which one I like the best. But so far I do like how this one is turning out, but obviously right now it's not looking so great. I did put a movie up on Netflix that I'm going to watch while I crochet called 47 Meters Down Uncaged. I am assuming that this is like a companion sequel to the original 47 Meters Down movie, which I did personally really enjoy. It's like shark horror is what I call these kinds of movies, like Jaws and that kind of stuff. I don't personally find them like horrifying, I just kind of like the suspense of them. So yes, I'm about to start that, and hopefully this will be as good as the first one is, and I will get to crocheting, and we'll also see how much of my book I can get done today. So it's now the next day. It's a very rainy day out today, so I'm sorry that the lighting is kind of gloomy. I wanted to update you guys again last night, but between reading and crocheting all day long, I was just so tired and my eyes were so tired that I just had to go to bed. But I'm here to update you guys again today. So I did end up finishing my crochet cat. I think I filmed a little clip of it for you guys. I like it. I don't love it, but I'm also a perfectionist, so I'm not overly keen on most of the things that I make, but I liked it enough. And I did get started on the second cat pattern, but I haven't finished it yet. But that is my update as far as my crocheting goes for anybody that was interested. And as far as the movie that I was watching, not as good as the first 47 Meters Down movie. If I would recommend it, I would just say watch the first one if you like a good shark film. I did, however, enjoy the setting of this one because the concept is like these 4 teenage girls go scuba diving in this Mayan city that is underwater, so like the statues and the columns, interesting setting, poor execution. But I am happy to say that I did finish Go the Distance, so I would give this a good like 4-star rating. This was one of the better Twisted Tales books that I read. It's probably like my 3rd favorite one. I'd put it like right below A Whole New World and right above Mirror Mirror, so I did definitely enjoy this one. As I've said umpteen times already in this vlog, I'm gonna save most of my thoughts for the review video that I do. But yes, I have finished my first book for this little reading challenge, so that means that I have to go to the library now and find out what I'm going to pick up next. So let's go do that. I am back from the library with 3 books, all with verbs in the title. I probably should have put my camera battery on its charger while I went to the library because now it's flashing at me. So we will have to go through these pretty quickly. So first up, the first book that I found when I walked in was Finding Cinderella by Colleen Hoover. This was right at the front of the library where they have all of like the bestsellers and popular books. Colleen Hoover is very popular at the moment. I've been reading her for a couple years now and I do really enjoy her work, so I thought I would give this one a read, and I did actually start reading a little bit of it in the car. I only read like 5 pages, so I can't tell you much about it right now, but I will tell you what it's about once I finish reading it. So I think this is going to be the next book that I pick up and officially read for this challenge. I then also found Where the Crawdads Sing. This was also right at the front of the library with all the bestsellers. I don't think I am going to be reading this week, even though it does have a verb in the title, but I thought I would pick it up anyway because my mom recently watched the movie and she really liked it and she really wants to like discuss it with me, but I told her she can't give me any spoilers until I read the book. So she has been on me to pick this book up. So now I have it and I will read it in the next coming weeks, but I don't think I'm going to read it for this particular challenge. And then of course I had to check out the horror section to see what verbs I could find there, and that is where I found What Moves the Dead by T. Kingfisher. This has been on my radar for a little bit while because it's a pretty short book and it's a horror, and I do enjoy like shorter horror books. And if I remember correctly, this is a like reimagining of Edgar Allan Poe's story Fall of the House of Usher, which I've never read Edgar Allan Poe's version, but it sounds like an interesting story, so I think I will enjoy it, and I think that I will pick this up after I finish Finding Cinderella as my 3rd and final book for this little reading challenge. So those were the 3 books I got from the library. These are the 2 that I'm going to read this week, starting with this one. It is now the next day. I just got done filming some TikToks and Instagram reels, so I thought I would take advantage of my tripod being set up to film another update for you. So this morning I finished Finding Cinderella. Before I tell you my thoughts on this, I have to say, mistakes were made. Okay, so I'm going to cover up the sticker that says my library's name on it, but there are a lot of stickers happening on the back of this book. It's popular, so it's only a 14-day loan. Then there's the barcode sticker, so I wasn't really paying attention to what was happening in this paragraph when I picked up this book from the library. So I missed where it said, "This 3rd installment." So it wasn't until I finished this book and then was adding it to my Goodreads that I saw that it said Hopeless 2.5. So this is a novella that goes along with her Hopeless duology, which I have not read. So Oh well, I don't really think it matters that much. This had its own plotline that I had no problem following without the context of the main duology. I do know now that the side characters of this book are the main characters of the duology, and I did notice while I was reading this book that the author made a point of adding certain details about those side characters and their history, which had no relevance to the story later. So while I was reading it, I was wondering why we were putting so much emphasis on some of these details, and now I know it's because they add to the main story. So besides that, I really don't think my enjoyment of this book was affected much by having not read Hopeless or Losing Hope. So that was an oopsie on my part, but I don't think it meant much. So now to talk about what I thought of this book, despite everything that I just said, I gave this 1 star. I hated this book, and again, I don't think it has anything to do with having not read the original duology. Like, maybe I would have been more invested in these characters, but that was not why I hated this book so much. This book was just full of so many uncomfortable moments. Like, if I was having a romantic moment with somebody and they did half of the things that these people do in this book, I would be like, I'm out. Like, it was just so uncomfortable to read about. I also think that this is definitely one of those Colleen Hoover books that kind of tests the line of consent or lack thereof. So overall, I did not enjoy this book. Also think another common theme I find with Colleen Hoover books is that I definitely prefer her adult fiction. Like, some of my favorites are Verity, Layla, It Ends With Us, those kinds of books, whereas the only other Colleen Hoover book that I have absolutely hated was Maybe Someday, which was her other like YA kind of book. And while I don't think I would necessarily consider this to be YA, because it does tend to be quite vulgar in its language, it's more new adult, I guess, it still feels like it's for a younger audience, and I just don't vibe with those kinds of books anymore. And that's not exclusively for Colleen Hoover books either. I think it's just like contemporary romance in general. If I'm gonna read a romance, it's probably going to be an adult book if I'm going to enjoy it. So this was a bit of a bust, but that is okay, because now we are going to move on to What Moves the Dead, and I am very excited for this, so I'm hoping that we will be able to end this reading vlog on a better note. So it is much, much later in the day now, and I'm looking a little rough, not gonna lie, but I thought I would give you a little update on my book before I go to bed, and then hopefully this is pretty short, so I should be able to finish this sometime tomorrow, and then give you a final update and end this vlog, which I'm sure is probably getting kind of long. So I only read the first 30 pages of this because I actually had a lot more to do this afternoon than I realized, so I just didn't have as much reading time as I thought that I did, but 30 pages in, I feel like I have a pretty good idea of the story, so I can give you a little bit more of a synopsis than what I told you before. So I know I mentioned already that this is a reimagining of Edgar Allan Poe's story, Fall of the House of Usher, but if you're like me and you've never read it before or really know what it's about, then I will tell you a bit about this book. So in this book, we follow our main character called Alex, who is a retired soldier, and they get a letter from their friend Madeline, I think is her name, and she is really unwell. In fact, her brother actually thinks that she is dying. So Alex makes the journey on their horse back to Madeline and her brother's like crumbling mansion that is also surrounded by mushrooms and fungi and all sorts of things, and the house is doing really unwell. And when Alex gets there, they realize that Madeline and her brother are also very unwell, and things might not be exactly as they seem. So that is essentially the premise of the story and what I've read up to in the first 30 pages. So far I am enjoying it. Obviously I'm very early into it. What I have noticed so far is that it has very descriptive, in kind of a grotesque way, writing, if that makes sense. So to give you a bit of an example, I will read you the second paragraph of the first chapter, just to give you a little taste of the writing and the descriptive style of it. So it says, "Perhaps it would not have been so unsettling if the mushrooms had not looked so much like flesh. The caps were clammy, swollen beige, puffed up against the dark red gills. They grew out of the gaps in the stones of the tarn like tumors growing from diseased skin. I had a strong urge to step back from them, and an even stronger urge to poke them with a stick." So that's just a little glimpse into what the writing is like, and I really do think I'm going to enjoy it. It also has a very beautiful chapters, so that is really pretty as well. And I have a good feeling about this book. So like I said, it's only like 150 pages, so I should be able to finish it sometime tomorrow, but I'm gonna get ready for bed right now, and hopefully I'll read some of this before I go to bed. So it is now the next day. This morning I finished reading What Moves the Dead, and I am super pleased to say that I really enjoyed this book. This was actually a 5 out of 5 star read for me, which I was not expecting. I had a good feeling that I would enjoy this book, but I did not realize just how much I was going to love this. Pretty much everything about it worked really well for me, from the plot to the characters to the setting to the beautifully descriptive and yet kind of grotesque writing. I just loved all of it. I would describe this as like gothic body horror, so if you are easily grossed out, then maybe I wouldn't recommend this book to you, but if you're not super squeamish, especially like reading it, then I would totally recommend this. It is so interesting. It does have a little bit of a slow start, but you gotta just stick with it because once it gets going, it is super interesting. So I am really pleased with how this readathon went, especially in comparison to Buzzwordathon in January, where I only read one book and I didn't super enjoy it. I'm really glad that this week I was able to read 3 books and 2 out of 3 were really good. So I'm really pleased with how this week went. So that brings us to the end of this reading vlog. Leave me a comment down below. Let me know if you've read any of these books and what you thought of them. I'd love to discuss them in the comments. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. Subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you in my next one. Bye!